Okay, let me share my screen.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How are you feeling today, sir?
Yeah, a lot better, but still I'm having a little bit of uncomfortable, feeling. We'll see. Try my best.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Try taking some hot water with turmeric, sir. You'll feel better, sir.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'm doing all those things.
Yes, sir. I had throat pain once and it helped me a lot, sir.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think we are discussing somewhere here. So far we have talked about Newton's laws. We talked about sky jumping, the physics behind sky jumping. We talked about addition of vectors and subtraction of vectors. We talked about friction. We talked about angle of friction and angle of repose. Pulling or pushing. I told you this is your homework. So I hope you tried it. Inclined plane, very often you're going to get inclined plane problems. Sometimes you will get this problem. Connected bodies, very often you're going to get a lot of problems like this. Sigma F is equal to ma is the most important formula in mechanics, right? We've been talking about that. Sigma F means adding all the forces in a particular direction, x direction or y direction, and then putting mass into acceleration will be the effect. So sigma F is the cause, ma mass into acceleration is the effect. Okay, so I'm supposed to talk about this one. I asked you to go through these things before coming for the class. When the lift is, when you're standing on the lift, right, and if the lift is going upwards, which means sorry, if it was constant velocity, right, then the mg is acting downwards, reaction force is acting upwards. So sigma f is equal to ma. Suppose if it was going at a constant velocity, constant velocity means acceleration is equal to 0. So sigma f means r minus mg. Why? Because upward downward is equal to 0. That means r is equal to mg. So suppose if you are standing on a weighing machine in your lift, right, inside the lift, you will see that if it's going at a constant speed, you will see the usual weight which you are used to see in the stationary situation. But suppose if the same thing, if the lift was accelerating, so accelerating means the speed is increasing, which means imagine that it's something like somebody is pulling you upwards. When the car is going forward, we get pushed backwards. Similarly, when the lift is getting accelerated upwards, right? Ours is something like a loose object. So that means we will get pushed downwards. Okay. So get the imagination. Okay. Unless you have this imagination, it's very hard to understand this concept. So when the lift is pulled upwards, I will get pushed downwards. Okay. So the reaction force. So this is already I'm having mg. The reaction force is R. Sigma F is equal to ma. So R minus mg is equal to ma because I'm going upwards, positive. R is equal to mg plus ma. What this means is, if the acceleration due to gravity is g 9.8, and if the lift was accelerating with say 2 meter per second square, and g is 10, then what you're going to see is, let's say your mass is 60 kg. Then instead of seeing 600 Newton, right? Usually in your weighing machine, you would have seen 600 Newton. Okay. Remember, what you call as weight in real life is not really weight. It is actually mass. Okay. Whenever you say kg, it's mass, not weight. Weight means it should be in Newton because weight is a force. So if you don't know this, please make a note. Very important. So weight is a force due to gravity. So if you folks will be around say 60 kg or 50 kg, something like that. So into 10, right? 9.8 or 10 g, m into g. So that is your 600 Newton approximately. But suppose if the lift was accelerating upwards with an acceleration 2 meter per second square, then what will happen is the reaction force will be 12 into 60. Okay, so which means 720. What this means is, listen carefully. What this means is, when the lift was getting accelerated upwards, I was getting pushed downwards. In addition to the weight, I'm getting pushed downwards. This is same like your car or bus, where when the sudden acceleration is there, you get pushed backwards. Similarly, when there is a sudden brake, all of us we go forward. Okay, and that is, we have been calling it as inertia so far. Another name for this is pseudo force. So somewhere in the centrifugal force, I talked about it. What do you mean by pseudo? Anybody?
False.
False. Very good. So it's not real, right? So it's not the real force. It's a false force. So nobody pushed you backwards or forward, but still, because of the car movement or the bus movement, you got thrown backwards or forward. That is what is called pseudo force. It's the same concept here. Only thing, instead of car, the lift is accelerating upwards and you are thrown backwards, downwards. Which means you will be feeling more weight. And the weighing machine will be showing you higher weight, higher mass. Any question? Anybody not following? The mathematics is very, very simple. Okay. I'm sure all of you will do the mathematics, but only if you have this imagination, what is pseudo force, why we are getting pushed backwards or forward, only when you have this imagination, you will understand this better. Without that imagination, you cannot understand this physics. The opposite is true for accelerating downwards. So suppose if I say, a lift is accelerating downwards, what will happen? We will feel lighter.
Lighter, sir.
We will feel lighter, right? Because why? Because your floor is constantly going downwards, which means you are actually trying to go upwards, or the floor of the lift is going downwards, leaving you behind. But because of the weight, you are falling down. That means you will actually feel lighter. So again, mathematics is very simple. Mg, reaction forces R. Again, I forgot to tell you here, since you are getting pushed downwards, actually this weight is what is called apparent weight. Don't write the numbers in the exam, okay? Don't just stop it for here. The numbers, if when I give you the numbers, it will make more sense to you. So the apparent weight is 720 Newton. So that means I am getting pushed downwards by 720 Newton, which means the floor will give me a reaction force of 720 Newton. So that's why the R is equal to 720 Newton. Pushed downwards. Here the same thing, sigma F is equal to MA. R minus mg is equal to minus MA. Why? Because it's going downwards. R is equal to mg minus MA. So M comes out G minus A. So suppose if this was going down by 2 meters per second square, and I'm assuming G as 10 to make the numbers multiplication easier. So this will be 60, this will be 10 minus 2, so it will be 8. So that means 480 Newton. So instead of 600 Newton, you will be feeling only 480 Newton. Okay. Why? Because you are getting pushed upwards. Which means how much force I'm giving on the floor will be reduced. That's the idea. There is a special case for this. What happens when the so the rope is like this. So let's say the rope is cut. Okay. So then what happens?
So it
entire lift,
accelerates downwards.
yeah, the entire lift
So
will be
you'll
falling down.
Yes.
Then
yes,
acceleration
sir.
G.
You'll feel like you're floating, sir.
Yeah. So if you feel like floating, right? Why is would you like to be inside a lift where the rope gets cut?
No, sir.
So you are saying you are going to get you're going to feel like you are floating. So floating means it's a very nice feeling, right? Why would you not like that situation?
So it's actually not floating. You're getting the lift is leaving too fast, so you're not in the same speed with the lift. So you're just going up.
So you're free falling, sir.
Yes.
Free fall, okay. That's correct. So in some Disney rides and all, you must have experienced this. Okay. They take you in a lift and then they drop you. So when they drop you, right, you will feel like your seat is not there. Right? You will not feel the seat at all. Why? Because the seat is also falling at G. You are also falling at G, which means you don't feel the seat at all. So when we don't feel the seat or when we don't feel the floor, that becomes a little bit uncomfortable situation because we are used to feel the floor all the time. So there is always a reaction force coming from our seat and coming from our floor. When that reaction force is missing, right, we feel a little bit uncomfortable. We feel a little bit of butterflies in our stomach. Okay. So that's the idea of this rides. So that means the mg is here, r is here. So r is equal to mg, sorry, sigma f is equal to ma. So r minus mg is equal to ma, but a is equal to g. Then this is downwards. It means I'll put a minus. which means this and this will cancel, so R will become 0. Which means suppose if you are standing on a weighing machine, the weighing machine will show you 0 because you are not pressing on the weighing machine at all. So the apparent weight becomes 0. Any questions? So the numbers are not given in the handbook, so take it down properly. Always I would recommend you to write it down so that you feel much comfortable. This situation we call it as weightlessness. Why? Weight is actually 0, so that's why we call it as weightless. But very often we confuse gravityless with weightless. Weightlessness is a different thing, gravityless is a different thing. Gravityless is if you go to you go to Milky Way galaxy here and some other galaxy here. So some place in deep space where there is no other stars very close by. In that place, you can say there is no gravity at all. But as long as you are inside the solar system, right? Even if you are outside the Earth's pull, you will still be rotating around the sun because you are still inside the gravitational pull of the sun. Even if you go outside the solar system, there will be some other star. So which means you will still be inside the gravity of that star. So only when you come out of the galaxies and when you have a situation where the galaxies are farther away. So this we call it as deep space. Whenever you hear the word deep space, it is something like gravity is 0. This situation is not gravityless because only because of the gravity you are falling down. Okay, so we call it as weightlessness, not gravityless. So understand the difference. Okay, so apparent weight in a lift is a very important concept. Okay, this is very similar to the International Space Station, right? The astronauts will be floating around. Why? Because there is no reaction force. Okay, so it will be the same situation. Why? Because if you consider the International Space Station, the Earth is like this, and International Space Station is nothing but a satellite. So it keeps on going around the Earth in an orbit. So since it is an orbit, right? Very important word, take it down. The moon and the natural satellites actually keep on falling into the Earth continuously. So you may be asking, sir, why is the moon not falling into the Earth due to gravity? Well, the answer is we studied this in projectile motion. So when you consider the flat Earth like this, when you throw a ball, it goes like this. So moon is also falling down like this, but the problem is the Earth is not flat. So in our small day-to-day life situations, we are considering a very, very small region. So that means it is flat. But if you consider the Earth is not flat. Earth is like this, which means moon is actually falling. But by the time it falls, this encounters this curvature of the Earth, which means we say that the moon is continuously falling into the Earth. Very important word, so take it down. That is true for a satellite also, natural satellite, or sorry, man-made satellites. Anything which is in orbit, we say that it is continuously falling. So that means the lift is a vertical situation. So the lift, when the rope is cut, we imagine that it is a vertically falling down situation. But here in the orbit, the International Space Station is continuously falling into the Earth. Only thing, since it is falling, how to say this? In this Disney ride or a lift situation, since we are falling down, since we have that fear that we are going to get hurt by the time it reaches the ground, we are a little bit fearful here. We are not very comfortable here. In an international space station, it's continuously falling, so you can keep on floating around. You don't have to worry about getting hit by the ground. You can do some YouTube search, and you can do some Google search, okay, to study more about this. So what they do is, they carry all these separate parts. These things are solar panels which are providing the electricity for the space station. So astronauts live there for say 2 months, 3 months. They study some microgravity experiments. They study the biological effects of human beings in very low gravity. So those kind of studies are happening in the International Space Stations. This I forgot the name of this. I think it's something like a tubular structure. So this tubular structure, it will be like a very long tube, so people can walk around here. So this is a very huge structure. Actually. Yeah, you can see the scientists and astronauts, living there in the International Space Station. So there is no such thing as orientation, right? Only because you have a computer like this looks like this person is standing like this. But in space, there is no such thing as upside down or anything like that. So you can turn around as you wish. Okay, so my suggestion is make a note, go to YouTube and search for International Space Station. There is some half an hour or 1 hour video. You can watch that. I think there is one video called Sunita Williams. She's an Indian origin, Indo-American astronaut, I think, from NASA. So you can watch that. That's a very nice video. Okay, so inside International Space Station, astronauts will experience gravityless or weightlessness. What do you think?
So weightless, not weightless.
Why not gravityless?
So because gravity is keeping them in the Earth's orbit. If it wasn't for gravity, they would have gone away, like far away from Earth.
Okay, very good. So that's the correct answer. So only because of the gravity, it is in the orbit. Otherwise, it will not be in the orbit at all. Okay. So make a note properly. International Space Station. So you should understand that the lift situation is linked with the International Space Station. So Elvin, you are saying the rod which I said is Columbus. Do you mean the tubular structure? That what
Yes,
you're
sir.
saying is
The tubular structure you said they called Columbus.
Columbus. Okay. Okay, so again, these are all very interesting stuff. Okay, so physics is not about studying something, writing the theory and getting some marks in your tests. So physics is, if you really have the interest, you can learn a lot. Remember, when I was in school, I didn't have any option of Google search or anything. Maybe that at that time only computer was actually introduced 20 years back. Okay, so today you have computers, internet, you have a lot of information at the fingertips. So make use of it. Whatever you are interested in, try to do some Google search, learn it. Okay, let's see. Lamis theorem, I don't think it is given in your textbook, but whenever you have three forces, it is very comfortable to use Lamis theorem. So that's why I given it to be useful for your numerical. So look at this. Suppose if I am directly going for an application, very interesting application. You can do this in a lab. We have this. So you can take a pendulum like this, hang it from a stand. And what I can do is I can apply some force at certain point. So that means the thread will come like this. So I applied a force at this point, and then the pendulum is hanging down like this. So let's say this weight of the pendulum is mg. So let's say 5 grams into g. This g is grams, this g is gravity. Mg. Let's say I'm applying, say, 10 Newton. So they will ask you to find the tension in this rope. This. So listen carefully. Suppose if I take this as theta. So the concept here would be this t can be written as t cos theta. This t over here can be written as t sin theta. Because I'm splitting this tension in the rope, tension in the string as two different forces. You can say that this is equal to this. This is equal to this. T sin theta is equal to 10. T cos theta is equal to mg. So this is just for simplicity. I'm going to take it as 5 kg to make it easier. If I take 5 grams, it's going to get a very small number. So that means it will be 550 newtons. So equation 1 by equation 2. So tt cancels. So I'll be getting tan theta. So tan theta is equal to 1 by 5. So if I want theta, I can find the tan inverse of 1 by 5. So very often they will ask you a question like this. Okay, you are applying a force pendulum. So using the data tables or your calculator, you can find the theta. Anybody, can you tell me the angle theta? I don't know if I have tan theta in this tan inverse. 1 by 5 means 0.2. 0.2 means tan 20. So let's try tan 20. Tan 20 is 0.3. So tan 10 is Okay, so tan 15, 0.26, tan 13. Okay, so approximately tan theta is actually 12 degrees approximately. Okay, you can double check it for accurate on this. Once I know this, what can I do? I can substitute it over here and I can find the tension. That means tension T is equal to 10 divided by sine 12. So 12 sine is 0.2. So 10 by 0.2. 10 by 0.2 is 100 by 2. So 100 by 2 is 50. That means it will be around 50 Newton. Any questions? Anybody? Why did I say this is equal to this is equal to this? Why? Because there is no movement in this direction, there is no movement in this direction. We call it as equilibrium position. Or you can go back to your basics, sigma f is equal to ma. Since there is no movement, a becomes 0. So t cos theta minus 50 is equal to 0, which means t cos theta is equal to 50. So again, for your exam purpose, you can directly write it like this, but you should understand the basics. So take it down this also. You should know why it is coming like this. Similarly, I can say this minus this is equal to 0. Sigma f is equal to ma. And that will give me this one. Any questions? Anybody? This is a example problem. I not use the same numbers, but you can do the example based on this logic. Anybody not following anything? Very simple. Please ask me if you have any simple doubts. Okay. Sir, you may be thinking, sir, you started with Lami's theorem, now you are teaching something else. Well, only if you know this one, Lami's theorem will make sense. So, what Lami's theorem says is, suppose if you have three forces, Lami's theorem will work only for three forces. If you have more than three forces, and then three forces should be in equilibrium. If it's not, then you will not be able to use the Lami's theorem. So, what this says is, the tension in the rope is acting this way. The force, I gave it in the horizontal direction. The weight was acting downwards, let's say 50 Newton. So you are supposed to find the tension. This is vertically downwards, this is horizontal because it's a given information, which means this is 90 degree. This angle with the vertical, I took it as theta. I don't know theta, I don't know the tension T, right? So this angle will be taken as 180 minus theta. This total angle between this force and this force will be taken as 90 plus theta. Anybody not following anything? So what Lami's theorem says is, simply take this force, right? Let's say this is F1, this is F2, this is F3. So what Lami's theorem says is, F1 divided by what is the angle opposite to it? Take it as sine. So sine 180 minus theta. What is F2? F2 by this angle. So the opposite angle is 90 plus theta. F3 is equal to, what is the opposite angle here? 90 degree. Okay, so that's what I have given here. So suppose if you had F1, F2, F3 acting like this, alpha, beta, gamma, all you have to write it as f1 by sine alpha, f2 by sine beta, f3 by sine gamma. This is coming from your sine formula, cosine formula and sine formula we studied somewhere else, right? We'll come back to it. The proof I will show you later. What is F1? 10 Newton. What is sine 180 minus theta? 180 minus theta is second quadrant. Second quadrant sine is
Sin theta.
sine theta. Yeah. So sine 180 minus theta becomes sine theta. F2 is weight 50 Newton. Divided by sine 90 plus theta. Anybody? 90 plus theta means this is 90 plus theta means this way. So second quadrant sine is positive in the second quadrant, but with 90 it will become
Cos theta.
cos theta. Okay. 180 or 90 will determine whether it is sine or cos. 180 minus the quadrant will determine whether it is positive or negative. Very often you will make a mistake of looking at this cos and say, sir, cos is second quadrant negative, so we'll put a negative, which is wrong. You should always look at the input quantity. F3 is the tension which I am supposed to find. Sine 90 becomes 1. Okay, so I'm getting into a situation where if I connect this and this, T will be unknown, theta will be unknown. If I connect this and this, T will be unknown, theta will be unknown, which means I have to connect this and this. So like what we did earlier, sine theta by cos theta will become tan theta. So tan theta is equal to 1 by 5. So use the same logic which we did to find the theta. Once you find the theta, substitute it over here and you will get the tension. So tension is equal to 10 divided by sine theta, we found it as approximately 12 degrees. So 10 divided by sine 12. Yeah, that's what we got here also. Okay, so what is the advantage? Whenever you have three forces, you can directly write this equations like this. You don't have to go through this, splitting these forces in the x direction, y direction, and then sigma f is equal to ma. You can do it by this method, but this is a little bit quicker. So take down both the methods so that you understand what is the importance of this Flamey's theorem method. Again, this is not given in your textbook, so I don't think they will ask you any theory questions on this. So I'm assuming for you also it is MCQ questions for term 1. Is that correct? Just like 12th?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Not sure, sir.
not sure. I thought ISC also following the same method like
They
previous.
haven't told anything, sir, till now.
Are you sure? I thought I saw some ICSE circular. It said the same
So the
thing. Term.
10th and 12th, sir.
Oh, not for 12th, 11th. Okay.
No, sir, they haven't mentioned anything properly for 11th.
Okay, doesn't matter. My guess is probably they will follow the same trend, same thing what they are doing
For
for
11th and school, they informed us that November, December, they'll keep it.
November, December. They'll keep term 1, right?
Term 1, yeah. And the first term is only MCQ type questions. The second term is all of theory part, theoretical numerical part.
Okay. Okay. ISC students, whenever you confirm that, let me know. Okay, but most probably, whatever you're preparing here, I'm planning to give you some MCQ type tests. Plan to get a software. So from the software, you'll be able to take the test directly online.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody having any questions? This is method 1. This is method 2. This will work only when you have 3 forces in equilibrium. Otherwise, it will not work. If you have 4 forces, you cannot use this. Proof is very, very easy. So if you had a triangle like this, let's say this is one force, this is another force, this is another force. So if the forces are put together and if it comes back to the same point, what do you mean by that? The net force is 0. Take it down properly. Whenever you see a closed figure, right, it means it is net force is 0. No matter what you see like this. So this is a closed figure, which means the force, the ball was pushed here, it pushed here, pushed here, pushed here, pushed here, pushed here, pushed here, pushed here. Which means you started here and then you came back here, which means the F net is 0. Similarly, very often you will come into this situation. So F net is equal to 0, which means it is in equilibrium, meaning it's not going to move anywhere. Again, I take it back, it's a wrong statement. Why is it wrong? Can anyone tell me?
In equilibrium, it has to start from same points.
No, I said F net is equal to 0 means equilibrium, but I said it's not moving. It's not moving is a wrong statement. Why? It can be. It can be moving. You see, we talked about this for 1,000 times. No one is remembering this. Look at this. What did I say? There's something called static equilibrium and dynamic equilibrium. So sigma f is equal to 0 doesn't mean that it is stationary. Your car might still be going at a constant speed, which means sigma f is equal to 0. You're not following? So go back and study this static equilibrium and dynamic equilibrium. Okay, for now, for simplicity, just for our understanding, I'm going to assume that the ball is not moving anywhere because all the 3 forces are going to keep it in the same place. Don't have enough space in the screen, so let's see. Space. So listen carefully. This angle F1, let me call it as opposite F1, I'm going to call it as A angle. Opposite F2, I'm going to call it as B angle. Opposite F3, I'm going to call it as C angle. So listen carefully. So suppose if you had a line along this direction, right? And then there is a line along this direction. Then there is a line along this direction. So this is my F1, this is my F2, this is my F3. So listen carefully, very, very easy trigonometric concepts. So if I extend this line, this is B, right? So I want to find the angle between F1 and F3. So F1 and F3. So look at this. This is F1, this is F3. F3 actually came over here. That means I want to find this angle. So if this is B, what can you say about this angle? Anybody? If the F3 was moved over here,
180 minus B.
180 minus B. That means the angle between F1 and F3 will become 180 minus B. Similarly, the angle between F1 and F2 will become, so if I extend this F1 here, so F2 is here, F1 is going this way according to this diagram. So this angle will become 180 minus C. Similarly, you can do it yourself. This is going to become 180 minus A. Okay. According to this triangle, right, from the sine formula, sine and cosine angle, cosine formula and sine formula. So you know that there is something called sine formula, which is given as sine A divided by opposite value, opposite magnitude, which is F1, is equal to sine B divided by opposite, which is F2. Sine C divided by F3. Okay. Suppose Lami's theorem says that if I take F1, I should take sine 180 minus A divided by F1. Sine 180 minus B by F2. Sine 180 minus C equal to F3. What does this mean? 180 minus A is second quadrant positive, so that means it becomes sine A. This becomes sine B. This becomes sine C. So that means what I'm saying is, if you understand this triangle, for this triangle, this is true. For this forces acting at a given point, given ball, if this is the Lami's theorem, right? Sine A by F1 is equal to sine B by F2, sine C by F3. Sine A can also be written as sine 180 minus A. But what is 180 minus A? The angle opposite to F1. It's called as alpha. It's called as beta. It's called as gamma. That means this can be called as sine alpha divided by F1. Sine beta divided by F2. Sine gamma divided by F3. That's all. Nobody is going to ask you this proof. Okay. It's only for your convincing yourself that it's a very simple, sine formula. So take it down. As you study all these things, your mathematics knowledge will also improve. Okay, you will understand how you are using the trigonometry everywhere in physics. As I always say, the trigonometry, they introduced it in your 11th, which is very good. But instead of permutation combination, maybe they would have brought in some other concepts such as integration, differentiation, vector algebra. These things would have been much more useful for physics. Okay.
Is there in class 12, sir, that integration?
Yeah, it is there. It's there in the second volume. So even after entering in 12th standard, you will be studying that after say 4 months or something. Excuse me, I'll get some water. Sometimes you will get some problems like this. Anybody having any doubts? Anybody still copying anything? Many of the things will not be there in the textbook. Okay, you go and search, sir. Sir taught me all these things, but it's not there in the textbook. Means it's because they think that they already understand. You folks already understand all these things. Okay, that's why they are not given in the textbook. So make proper notes. Let's see how I can apply it in a real life situation. So suppose if you had a wedge like this, let's say this angle is 45 degree and this angle is 30 degree. Then suppose if you had a sphere or a cylindrical shape like this standing on this wedge. So we will say that the normal reaction force will be acting from this touching point. So that means the normal reaction force from here will be going like this. Let's call this as normal reaction 1. The normal reaction from this surface will be going like this. Let's call it as N2. You know that the weight is always acting downwards. So if I take this mg downwards, n1 this way, you know that the vectors can be moved without changing the direction. I can move it wherever I want in the paper. It means this is n1. Let's say this is n2. So if I know the angles here, I can easily find n1 and n2. Very often they'll ask you this question. If you use the Lami's theorem, it's very, very easy. So how do I do that? Look at this. I told you that whenever you have this inclined plane, if this is theta, right? I told you this is also theta, which means the normal reaction is acting at an angle of theta. So that means with respect to the vertical, this will also be 30 degree. Anybody not following this? With respect to the vertical here, right? This angle will be 45 degree. Please take a look at this diagram. We already talked about the inclined plane. So if I say this angle is 30 degree, this angle will also be 30 degree. If I say this is 30 degree, then I can say this is also 30 degree. If I say this angle with the vertical is 45 degree, with the vertical, that's very important, with the vertical. So make a note, with the vertical. So if this is 45 degree, I can immediately say this is also 45 degree. So the angle between these two lines, I given it as 75 degree. You see, I have not shown all these dotted lines, so you have to think yourself, you take it down properly. If this is 30, 45, this is 75. If this is 30, this will be 60. 60 plus 90 will become 150. If this is 45, this is also 45. 45 plus 90 degree will become 135. If I know this angle, this angle, this angle, and if I know this force, one force, I can find this and this using your Lami's theorem. Any questions, any doubts, anybody? Anybody thinking, sir, I understood 30 degree, but I didn't understand 45 degree? Only if you open your mouth, I can understand where you stand. Okay. This is like, sitting in a swing, right? So you can do it yourself, nothing very difficult here. The tension in the rope is T. So do it yourself as you get some problems. All these concepts are some additional concepts. Okay, so I've given some extra concepts. So what I'm going to do is okay, so let's quickly go through the textbook. Let's see what are the topics which we are covered and what are the topics we are not covered. External forces, you can go through it. Aristotle's fallacy, law of inertia. Okay, so go through this. Okay, this is something which you have studied in your 9th standard. What this says is, if I drop the ball here, it will come back to the same height. If I assume that there is no friction. If I make it longer, it will try to come to the same height because potential energy here should be equal to the potential energy here. If I make it straight like this, according to Galileo's principle, right? If I drop this ball will keep on going forever and ever and ever. What this means is, since there is no friction, it will keep on going forever. Okay. So this is a very, very, very important concept. We have been thinking that to move, we need a force. Okay. But this is a completely wrong understanding. Okay. So what Galileo said was, to move, you don't need any force. Only to accelerate, you need force. So make a note, all of you. To move at constant speed, there is no force required. To accelerate, to increase the speed or reduce the speed, then you need a force. So this was a very important finding by Galileo, and later it was given as a law by Newton's laws. So take this as a homework, read through this theory. Newton's laws of motion, we talked about it. We talked about static equilibrium and dynamic equilibrium. This is static equilibrium, this is dynamic equilibrium. We talked about what is momentum. We talked about second law. We talked about the cushioning effect, why you hold the ball a little bit, longer time. We derived the Newton's second law using the calculus method and then your 9th standard method. This, I'll come back to this. I think I have not talked about this. Newton's third law, we talked about it. This one is also example. I have given it in the handbook. Go through it. Okay. Conservation of momentum. We talked about it. Remember this? Did we talk about this? Today we talked about this, right? The tension in the rope. So when you pull it with 50 Newton. So this I took it as 50 Newton. This I took it as 10 Newton. So I just changed only the numbers. Common forces in mechanics, it's a theory part, go through it yourself. Okay. In the case of force in the string, we call it as tension. Okay. Force in the water, we call it as water or some liquid, we call it as viscous force. Force in the upward thrust, we call it as, when it is buoyancy force, right? We call it as upward thrust. So take it down. Tension, viscous force, upward thrust, all these things actually means the force. Gravity, for example, weight is also a force. Tension is also a force. Viscous drag is also a force. Upward thrust is also a force. You're not taking it down, please take it down quickly. Weight, tension, viscous drag, upward thrust. All these things means forces at different situation. This is in the strings. This is when you have under gravity. Viscous drag when you go through a liquid or fluid. When you are going in a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, right? Do you experience any viscous drag or not? Do you experience any viscous drag or not? Do you experience any air resistance?
Yes, sir.
That is nothing but your viscous drag. So the air resistance force acting this way is what is called viscous drag. So as I said, if you try to drive inside water, it's going to be even more difficult. If you drive in the air, it's going to be much easier. If you drive in vacuum, it will be much more easier. So that means whenever there is a fluid resistance, so take it down properly. Upward thrust is nothing but your buoyancy force. Spelling is wrong, correct it yourself. I think it's B-U-Y. I don't know. Anybody know? Is it B-O-U-Y or B-U-O? Can double check it yourself. Say that.
In the book, it is given as BOU, sir.
B-O-U. Okay, then this is correct. Buoy means floating, right? So in swimming pools and places like rivers or oceans, seas, they will put some some kind of a warning signs, right? It will be floating on the water. So they will say, okay, beyond this point, don't go, right? Warning or something. So all those things are called buoy. So anything which is floating is buoyant, buoyancy force, which is related to Archimedes principle. Okay, we'll talk about these things later. Coming back to the PDF, so you should understand that, don't get confused by these different names. All these things are force. Friction, we talked about it. We talked about static and kinetic friction. Sadly, they are not given the diagram. Okay, so without this graph, right, it's very hard for you to understand the static friction and kinetic friction. So you should study along with this graph. We talked about inclined plane. We talked about connected bodies, pulleys. We didn't talk about rolling friction. I'll talk about that. Circular motion is something remaining. Okay, we are not talking about this one. Circular motion in this chapter. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. Your homework is start doing the example problems up to question number example problem 9. So our homework is to do the 9 example problems and start doing the exercise problems as much as possible. 9 examples compulsory. Exercise, start doing it. Okay. Okay, next class I will finish the remaining part. So thank you all. If you have any doubts, stay back, otherwise you can leave. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Thank you.
Take care, sir.